Hey, my beautiful people, how are you doing? Yes, it's Francis Hunt, the market sniper, the crypto sniper, and the research sniper coming at you from nice and crisp Portland. That's right, we're in the northern hemisphere. It is winter season, but beautiful, sunny, and actually, you know, when you read about Portland, the thing that I always got told, and I followed on the Twitter feed, I saw like under the bridge just needles being spilled by drug users and people camping out in tents. There's one or two folk that are doing that in parts of downtown, and purple and pink washout rinse feminazi brigade and all sorts of rather unseemly aspects that people associate with Portland. Not everybody associates that, but it seemed quite a few in terms of the Twitter feed. It wasn't all that positive. But the people I've met have been amazing, really enjoying being out here. Love their winter, actually. I've been chasing the sun and enjoying summers because I'm a summer guy. I reckon you've got about 30 summers left of your life. So you can double them by reducing your winters. So I've been chasing the sun. You can have 60 summers, but actually it's great to have a sunny day which is crisp. It's slightly windy today. I hope it's not going to be a little bit too buffering on the audio, but it's been super still as well and clear skies. Anyway, and also on they don't seem to ascribe to pigeons as birds. They're in the flying rat school. Not only do you have all these mega spikes all over the place, but there's eagles who chatted to the guy with the eagle that chases all the birds, and the guy has a beam and he shines it on the building where the pigeon is, and the eagle follows the beam, so he comes back, chases him away. So yeah, it's fascinating. Anyway, I've got more than just chit chat to tell you about. So let's get straight on it. I thought I'd do a Wall Street Journal quick check-in. So I always like going when I'm in the States or anywhere else actually to have a look at the financial papers. Of course, I'm not the kind of guy that takes everything very much at face value that you read in any paper, including the financial ones. But this is particularly an interesting one, and I'm going to give you some comment on it. So this is the Wall Street Journal from today. Today being, what day are we today? February the 19th, 2020. Whoop, bit of wind coming. I hope you guys will cope with that. February the 19th, 2020, Wall Street Journal. That's right. So that's what you're seeing there. President, that would be your President Trump, for my American friends and followers. President pardons Milken, also grants Blagojevich clemency. So Michael Milken. Now there's a name from the past. Now you see, when you've been following the financial industry with such interest as myself, certain things come round and round again, and you actually have memory and history. So what was Michael Milken? Some of my younger members will not know, and even some of my of similar age group to me may not know, because you may not have been interested in the financial markets when as early as I was. So Michael Milken. Let's talk about Michael Milken. Now, I followed him through the papers at the time because I was watching and reading everything that was going on in Wall Street in London, all that from little old South Africa. But I can tell you he was made famous also by one of my most favorite narrators of financial stories. That would be Michael Lewis. Michael Lewis is a great author. He had me in stitches many times. He's got kind of similar humor, I hope, to me. I'd like to think we have a similar humor. Whimsical, ironic, cynical, and clearly a guy of some intellect, and sees through the scam. He actually worked in Wall Street in New York, in the financial services area, so he spoke from great experience. And he wrote a very famous book called Liar's Poker. Liar's Poker. Now, can I just tell you, for many of you watching this that don't read anymore, it's all YouTube. That's all well and good, and it's the new way, and I get a lot out of YouTubes. But switch off your devices, switch off your internet connection, maybe just for an hour every day, and read. Read a book. Lie down and read and lose yourself in the zone. Get rid of the wife, the dog, whoever distracts you, and read. And I'm going to tell you, if you're thinking financial books are dry and not worth your time, this one will be incredibly entertaining, yet impart truth. In actual fact, when I do YouTube and I say ridiculous things, as I do, such as saying something like I'm here in Portland, the capital of transgenderism, homeless people, and Antifa, and anything else ridiculous that I might want to characterize. And do certain things like that. It's more to just bring a few giggles and laughs and be entertaining, because you learn best when things are engaging and funny. It's actually shown that a very serious environment is not a good environment for learning. Where you have a very stern, austere, quiet, don't speak out of turn environment, it's actually not a great learning environment. People hate to miss a punchline in a joke. Let me flip and tell you, you've got their attention if you're keeping them guessed, you're keeping them shocked, with a bit of humor. Now, I can tell you that Liar's Poker will make you piss out loud. In fact, I'm thinking I need to go get it and read it for a third time. It's been a long, long time, and I think it was one of his best. The Money Culture and Liar's Poker came out pretty back to back. Anyway, let's get on with the story. Michael Milken was essentially the innovator, they'll say creator, inventor. I don't think anything in financial terms deserves to be called inventor of anything, of junk bonds. Junk bonds. And let me tell you, this story around junk bonds, you're going to see this particular asset class come back into the news in a big way as part of this whole reset that we are going. Oh, I should have had the shades today. It's actually such good sun that's blinking me out. Anyway, so Michael Milken, in the guise of ensuring that normal companies that were in less good or struggling companies that were in less good condition, smaller, medium-sized, not making quite the profit, didn't have access to capital, or couldn't get access to capital, arranged essentially high-yield investment instruments. High-yield investment instruments, in other words, debt that was provided to these riskier companies so that they could continue to limp on, I expect, in most instances, before dying, or maybe one or two actually gets out. And generally, let me tell you, the recovery narrative is most things don't recover. But anyway, in the name of democratization of capital, we created junk bonds under the guise Mr. Milken created them, so that lesser companies could get access to capital and would therefore be punished. So we were able to extend the tertiary extracting degree that these corporations would have to pay, which saw them face quite high interest rates, and made for attractive yields, providing the companies limped on sufficiently long enough to keep making their payments. Now, Mr. Milken created that, and as part of, and he did this while he was with Drexel Burnham, actually. And he got promoted, became the star Drexel Burnham. He was the junk bond king. And he created this market. And it was outside of the lead investment banks. And the lead investment banks don't tend to like that. They don't tend to like when somebody else creates a whole new asset class and some small second-rate tier firm runs the show in that asset class. And they now have to go down on one knee to participate in this environment. But they weren't innovating, they were too posh, they only lend money to the top tier, they didn't see the opportunity of these high yield investments. Now, some of you who follow the channel will know that we are currently espousing, both technically and in the medium to fairly long term, fundamentally, shorts on HYG. There's also another symbol called SHYG. It sounds very close to SHIT, but anyway, SHYG and HYG are symbols on TradingView for high yield investment instruments. Now, as we've said before, the ratings agencies can be relied on to be well behind the curve, because nobody gets paid or loved for downgrading companies that they still have to do business with. In other words, the scratch my back syndrome just doesn't work particularly well. Those of you that remember, I think it was it S&P or was it Moody's, I can't remember, that downgraded America's debt rating due to overpondence. They then got investigated for how they conducted themselves with subprime, while other rating agencies that hadn't didn't. So you can almost expect to be punished by the US government if you downgrade the US government's debt and do your job, which your company has done. But also business relations should suffer immensely if you're highly aggressive and early in the curve in downgrading companies' credit worthiness, because that has real risks on them. So you become a very unpopular company. So rating agencies are almost inert towards downgrades, well, probably quite lively towards upgrading. What this means is we actually have at the moment companies such as GE, which are huge megacorps, have been loading up on debt, deeply indebted, that are just above junk grade level. And the problem is, the minute you fall out of investment grade and you become junk grade, pension funds that are stuffed to the hilt with debt. Why do pension funds buy debt? Pension funds buy debt supposedly so that they can get this income stream of this yield to pay out monthly salaries or pension payments, that's your old man's salary once you retire, to you. So investments in debt therefore are pretty safe, supposedly, allegedly, not in your reset mind, but that's how they were sold. Income deriving elements, that those interest yields, you could buy a block of debt and you could just receive these payments, and that's ideal for pension funds who have retiring people. So anyway, this pension funds were never allowed to invest in. Mr. Milken, looking dapper in his suit from the 80s, now 73 years old, by the way, so this is some time ago, and was featured in a very interesting chapter, couple of chapters in Michael Lewis's book. Read the book. Anyway, in 1 year, Michael Milken allegedly earned $500 million. Now, this was the 80s now, and I want to say to you that there was something deemed obscene about that way back then, because many people, you know, a good banker would be on a base salary of $100,000 back then. You bought a Ferrari for $45,000. You know, the dollar just went a whole bunch further. Go look at your dollar purchasing power and understand QE, understand how you are a monkey on a slippery pole, and the way that they control you is they inflate away your money and have marginal tax bands so that you're continually having to get paid more to have the same standard of living, and then just get dragged ever higher into higher tax bands, so that the only tax thing that they occasionally have to give you tax cuts because everyone's being squeezed in a slippery pole deflation, deflating buying purchasing power currency. That's how they control us essentially. Anyway, so in that environment, you can see that 500 million would have been obscene. You're talking about $500 million in terms of bonuses for what he was doing. Now, he created an entire industry which has huge market cap. But there was something deemed immoral about that. They went after him, and in the actual article they admit that it was the first time on any technical charges that anyone had ever been persecuted on them. Some would say he was in the wrong. If he'd been in Goldman Sachs, that might not have happened. In fact, he'd be a lauded hero, and he actually went to jail for 22 months on some of these technical charges. So it was deemed he should be going down, and that was pretty much an anti-Wall Street era. And we're coming around the cycle to another anti-Wall Street era, because here I am in the city, in the town that many refer to as having, you know, the kind of Bernie Sanders type mentality, or the Elizabeth Warren, or any others like that type thinking. Now, that doesn't caricature everybody, and as I say, I've met amazing people here, and I've not got a dog in the fight of the red versus blue game. I don't believe any of them work for you, but it's just fascinating that we're in this anti-Wall Street era. But he's getting clemency now for a 22-month sentence. It's kind of being removed from his name that he was a criminal, white-collar criminal. By the way, some other poor sod served 14 years out of 18 years for allowing people to sell cannabis from their home. So that just shows you the difference between Wall Street crimes and how much time he's served versus cannabis, which is now broadly accepted in most states and is being marketed, and big commercials are involved, and the hemp and the products all going out, allowing people to actually not even actively engage themselves, but they said, hey, can we meet, you know, family member or whatever, can we come to your flat so that there's a place out of the cold that we can transact, and you do 14 years time for weed. You know, the proportionality, that's just another whole discussion, but I won't go any further down that one because I'll tangent in so many different places. We'll be like scattered, the scatterlings of Africa. Anyway, so back to Mr. Milken. Read Liar's Poker about him, a fascinating story about the creation. And you've got to ask now, in this debt exploding environment, whether actually the creation of junk bonds was actually a good thing. Sometimes it's a good reason for people not having access to credit because they're not doing well enough. Sometimes it's kind of like giving a 44 with a hairline trigger to a 6-month-old. Let's have a whole bunch of them in a playpen, and let's hand each one of them a hairline trigger 44 Magnum and come back and see how it pans out. Corporates that are battling and struggling, yes, sometimes access to capital is a requirement. Sometimes you have to put money out in growth cycles. I've been in high growth entrepreneurial situations in companies that I've started that actually were exceedingly profitable, but we didn't have enough capital because we kept having to put ever larger amounts of capital out to secure our future growth, and actually were cash flow restricted. So there is a case for access to capital, but not every company is in that scenario. Sometimes they're just badly run and they need to die. And today we actually sit in this environment where not just small and medium sized, but mega corps, supposed, stars. We used to say when, what's good for General Motors is good for America. I would argue General Motors has just pulled its Holden brand in Australia and New Zealand, is pulling in its horns all over the place. We've got HSBC sacking 35,000 jobs. The huge banking oligarchs are in huge trouble. Car companies, particularly those that haven't managed to smear themselves in the elixir of Tesla battery-driven green charm and aren't all Greta Thunberged out, are in serious trouble. We've probably got overcapacity there in cars. Then we've got your subprime autos, which is essentially the debt creation on people that is hopelessly overextended. As I've mentioned many times before on this channel, you go past the billboards. 7 years, you have 7 years, you actually have 70 months actually deals, which is not quite 7 years, not quite 6, my apologies, 6 years. You have 70-month car payback period, still with a balloon payment attached to it, and like no deposit deals. You'll buy a fraction of the car for a longer period than my father used to pay off his mortgage on his own. And that's the financialization of everything. And the person that started the financialization of everything, that get everyone debt and leverage, including those that may not be well served to do it. In other words, the baby gets the 45. The idea and notion, and as they're repealing gun laws and rolling them back, it's ironic that you have the financialization of everything still has to go on. How many times do you get offered extended warranties when you're checking out? These are all just financial portfolioization on things that are supposed to last, supposed to be quality, should last, sure deals to continue running, and then they create a portfolio of a supposed risk and charge you a certain amount or add additional monthly to your payment. So the problem is the financialization of everything. And the junk bond market was giving credit to people that were previously denied credit. People, corporations, I mean. And subprime auto loans is another example of providing credit to people that shouldn't be. They're buying brand new Ford trucks, getting the most car without knowing how much they're paying. Just, can I do the monthly payment? It's not a good deal if you can afford $250 a month, but it's only buying you a third of a truck that will have depreciated by 60%. In fact, in 6 years could have depreciated by 75%, and actually leave you underwater, trading it in and actually owing money a balloon payment. But this is what will happen in an oversupplied automotive market where there's too many people that shouldn't be getting debt at a personal level, and this was the beginning of corporates getting financialized. So the financialization of everything has been a long staged series of approaches where the banks have been getting into everything. And now we have the Apple Card, by the way, guys. Having recently just bought a couple of devices. Portland, by the way, is a no sales tax area. The best place to buy Apple products and or devices is America, and if you can buy it in a state where there's no sales tax, it's actually the cheapest device globally. If you need them, don't buy things you don't need. We decided I need a lot more RAM for doing my videos so that I can run my trading platforms at the same time. So we bought, just off that purchase, I'm getting offered the Apple Card, this brand new issue. So now you've got a technological oligarchical. Now, oligarchical is sort of an elite class. Oligopoly is essentially monopoly, but instead of one of a few. Megacorps that have secured incredible tax leniency through their global operations. That I think it was calculated that they paid 0.0082%. I can be totally wrong on this number. It's a total memory brain fart that I'm throwing in the UK. They left all their profits that they were making offshore. Then every 5-10 years you get a president that does, hey, bring your money onshore and we'll do a deal where you only pay a minuscule amount, and all that money then floods back in. And of course this share price has just gone up and up and up. They have an absolute scale business, they have preferential treatment on their tax, and now they're going to become an tertiary extractor as well. Your Apple card is here. And I'm of course getting these adverts now to have a shiny pearlescent white card that will have all sorts of Apple cool. And guess what the product is? It's still the same dollar, and it's still going to come with an interest rate and a payment plan and everything. Many, many ways to imprison you on the wrong side of a compound interest rate equation. True wealth, guys, is built by not being put on the wrong side of a compound interest equation, and the entire system is designed for them to extract true wealth at your permanent in poverty by accepting these lucrative offers. No credit card. It is still just a means for buying things you shouldn't have. It's still just on the surface giving you money that you haven't yet earned. It's still just bringing future growth and purchases that you could make in the future on a cash basis on money that you have earned if you need them forward, where you then pay a time value cost for getting that, and should be very rarely and very judiciously used, possibly on property where it can boost your returns. Almost never on a guaranteed depreciating vehicle such as a car. Buy cash, buy second hand, keep yourself out of the tertiary extractor's hands. Anyway, so now you have Apple becoming a bank, and this is the whole game of the financialization of everything. It'll be the coolest card in town, and now middle class, aspiring wealthy people will be getting their own new tertiary extractor, joining the rest of the banks. And probably use that. They'll probably get some perks. Too many businesses, too many industries, these monopolies, oligopolies is the correct phrase, as I've said. It's not just one of them. Google, Alphabet, and many of the others all fall into the same category, and we're having the financialization of everything that now tech companies get into tertiary extractory activities to maximize their base. It's all about data. It's all about your personal freedoms. They're collecting your personal freedoms through everything you do. Now they will know where you spend your money. They will profile you. They will know what you like. They will be marketing to you continually the whole time to sweeten you into consumption that you probably can't afford, that you probably shouldn't do, and that you probably don't need, but will be in your weakest spot where you're more inclined to accept. If it's holidays, it'll be holidays. If it's carbon bicycles because you're a cyclist, it'll be carbon bicycles. If it's shoes, high-heeled shoes. If you're transgendering like me in Portland and you like pink high heels, it's going to be high-heeled pink shoes. Whatever the case may be, you're going to get your weak spot tickled. And they're going to have better information than they've ever had on you. They're going to package your data up. They're going to sell it to other people that have got stuff that they can't offer you to sell. And this is the corporatocracy, a communistic corporatocracy. In fact, I listened to, in this typical Hunt rant that is going to go on tangents everywhere, I was listening to that loathsome character that's big friends with Netanyahu as part of the Trump team. Brain fart moment, can't think of name, after the Roman, Pompeo. And Pompeo was saying this whole situation with Huawei and state-based China getting into all of our time, we here in America, we should consider buying controlling stakes in. And then he was saying Microsoft, Nokia, and all the devices, even though the CIA and all their tech FBI arms have break-in entries, and Apple does this fake thing that they're keeping them out, all of that. Let me tell you, they have gateways into everything. They are listening, watching. They can rip this content that I'm providing right now, literally real time. Why do you think we don't have batteries we can remove from these devices anymore? Like the old Nokias, they can even record you if your battery is flat. There's power retained in the cells. I mean, these are absolute surveillance tools, and Pompeo was essentially saying, because we have, supposed, this is step one, make a communist state your enemy, okay, China. China's the enemy, guys. They want to invade America. No, they don't, but anyway, they're the enemy. They're going to collect all your data. Accuse them, step two, accuse them of doing that which you and your corporate oligarchical elites are doing, aka Microsoft, Google and Apple are already doing on your devices. Accuse them. They're going to collect your data. They're going to be spying on our citizens. We won't stand for it. Okay, we're standing up for you. No, we're accusing them of what we know we are already doing to you from our own companies, and we need you to be on our own devices so we can be guaranteed to get all your data, not some foreign nation that might not cooperate. So if ever there was an advert for Huawei, that might be it, because what the Chinese are going to do with you, round eyes, pale face, in the other side of the planet's data, I don't know. But anyway, let's put that one aside. So step one, create the enemy that's a communistic state. Step two, accuse them of that which you do. Step three, assert the solution to this problem you've created is to do a government-owned technocratic class over all tech companies, mobile phone companies, mobile devices, and everything that the state should actually own a controlling stake in. All of these companies. It was interesting to see that he didn't mention Google and Apple. They obviously are actually getting all they need out of that, but he was referring to Nokia and all of that, and pan-European companies. Nokia, of course, still a Finnish company bought by Microsoft, etc. So actually what they're saying is that we want a communistic solution to compete and protect you from the communistic threat. This is how they bring the slow-based communism, because essentially you would have government as a controlling shareholder over your technocratic companies. That's communism. That means one of the core things where all your personal data is collected, all your privacy is collected in your emails, your calls, your WhatsApps, your signals, your Facebook posts, your Instagram posts, all your social media and everything is now permanently controlling state owned by a government entity. Well, whatever happened to capitalism? Whatever happened to private enterprise? Why is government the biggest share going to, or suggesting becoming the biggest shareholder in that? Guess who's going to have to provide the tax revenue for them to buy their way into that? You will. You will pay for your own imprisonment. They will forward provide. They will print fiat to buy these stakes if they were to act on this. That's not to say they'll be were to act on this, but these thought leaders and these clever ideas are all taken so seriously. Always create an outrider for a thought leader. They'll often come out of Boston University, Yale, Harvard. Hey, how about this? You have to declare the value of your house on the blockchain through Ethereum, and if you undervalue it for your tax payments, someone is entitled to bid for it and purchase it at the price that you offer it. That's a great way of getting you out of your home and to get state as the primary state owner, because who do you think will be buying? Hedge funds with big state connections, the same guys that picked up at the bottom of the market any Detroit property at really low prices. Anyway, so financialization of everything, creeping communism through the corporate elite that pay very low tax rates, and you're the mark. You're the guy on the marginal tax rate. You're the guy that's dealing in the fiat that can be proliferated. They've dropped from 120 billion to 80 billion in the repo market. That's new money diluting your existing money. That's every month. And the dollar's going up. The euro's going down against the dollar. Pound's in trouble against the dollar. This is your strongest currency. I've just done a huge bull call on precious metals. Second stage, in other words, in Elliott wave, you have the first leg, you get a retracement period, and then you get the third leg, which is the second stage of the bull leg, calling long on metals. By the way, it's my opinion, it's not financial advice. Go watch that YouTube and decide how you want it, whether you want to keep all your money in this proliferated peanuts fiat market. I've just traveled through so many current countries. I'm sitting with paper and polymer plastic from so many of these countries. South African rands, Turkish lira, Mexican pesos, dollars, and I hold them in my hand and they are all empty promises. In some instances, barely worthy of wiping your backside with. And then I hold an ounce bar of gold, I feel the weight, you ping it and you say, rarity, value, undilutable, that is your hedge. So yes, we are precious metals bull, and we're expecting this third leg. Usually in Elliott wave theory, you'll know the third leg is the longest and most powerful leg. Can actually, typically Fibonacci dictates, can be 61.8% longer than the leg one from A to B. Your BC is your pullback, and then your CD is often ties into being 61.8% on the initial move. I'm expecting super overperformance there, and I'll tell you all about it in that clip. Okay, so we went in a roundabout chat about a lot of things here in sunny Portland, from pigeons that are flying rats to Michael Milken and Why You Should Read Liar's Poker, and it's side-splittingly entertaining book, his best ever in my opinion. How you can learn about how he brought the financialization of everything to the corporate world, including companies that probably should not receive access to capital, and how that is going to be one of the biggest busts. And I never quite finished making this point, but the pension funds, which are the biggest institutional buyers of corporate debt, as well as treasury, government treasury debt as well, they don't only buy corporate debt, there is a huge overhanging shelf just above junk. And when we have the first crap the bed moment, a large amount of these will have to be re-rated downside. That means the pension funds will become net sellers, or should become. They might be withheld by government remit, such is the extent, and I'm also reading Jim Reichardz's book on Aftermath, such is the extent of state intrusion that BlackRock and others have been deemed key financial institutions and told that they could have a government member put on their board and they could be stopped from selling anything, even if it's in their clients' interests to discard of that asset. If the government asserts that it's strategically significant that they do not create a sell wall on a particular asset class, they can be prohibited from doing it. So let's get this straight. You've given your money to a company like BlackRock or other asset managers that are deemed key financial institutions by the government, and they can intervene and stop the company from acting in your own interests to discard of a soon-to-be highly devalued asset. In other words, this is the communism of everything. Because what does that company do? They can't act in your interests. They get stopped. It gets deeply devalued. They say, sorry, we wanted to help you, but the state stopped us. Then the state has to say, well, we'll make you whole on that, like they did on the AIG. And it is the state owning of everything, eventually provisioning and standing behind all devalued debts. And how will they do it? Perpetual QE, further devaluation of currency, higher tax rates, which doesn't need them to actually raise tax rates, just create new green taxes, and also just to devalue the currency so that everybody's salaries accelerate upwards and we have a hyperinflationary cycle, and you end up in a position where you get dragged into higher marginal tax bands and are actually earning more in nominal terms and having a worse lifestyle than ever before. And you will have a couple where previously you would have one man, Mike Maloney speaks of one man only working, mum staying at home, being a storeman and paying for all the kids, of which there were a few, I can't remember how many in the Maloney family, on an $11,000 a year salary and making net savings and saving his pension, paying his house off and everything, and a car and everything. Now you have two-person families and absolute decent salaries by semi-professional to professional people that aren't coming out after tax. So you've got to get out of this fiat game. This is how Bolshevik law 101, how they capture you. And go watch the precious metals, why you need to have an overweight and extreme allocation. Times extreme measures are due. Be overweight is my view, and I intend to be overweight. I don't want to hold debt. I don't want to hold anybody's debt. It's going to be devalued. It's going to be an underperforming asset. It's been a performing asset since the 80s. My brother was an actuary. He worked for assurance companies. He got into investment management. He was net long debt from the 80s when Faulkner had extremely high rates, and it's been a whole trade. He's retired. He's left long ago, and it's still the trade. It's still the trade 10, 15 years after he stepped down from his asset management position. This is a super cycle period, and eventually debt is going to hopelessly underperform, and you will, because it used to be that debt was a great counterbalance to equity. Now we have this bizarre world of such perversion and fiat creation that you have equity markets going to all times high. In this paper, the talk of the guy who buys number plates every time you cross a 10,000 level. He's buying the 40,000 Dow number plate for his call. There you go. He's bought every time he's tried to get the higher number plate. Where's the article? Does it show up? Just about there. Yeah, Dow 40,000 plate. And this is just on funny money. This is on funny money. So you have equities and bonds going up at the same time. Simultaneously, you will have simultaneously, as you've never had before, you'll have them both crashing in the fear and loathing period. And they're going to create sufficient pain and sufficient turmoil that eventually you say, government, do something. And of course, this is a government-created problem. It's problem, reaction, solution. and they will do something, but they'll first let you really screen for it so that you'll accept almost any solution, and they will bring the solution that they know they will always planning, because they've created this problem. And Mr. Milken, in helping support the financialization of everything, one of the few people in Wall Street ever to go to jail, and ironically more for technicalities, probably least deserving when you consider the subprime history and all the fraud that went on there, but nonetheless to jail he went. Now it's clemency. The Milken Foundation is respected and has been doing all these great things for cancer. He suffered for cancer himself for some time, and it's unbelievable. He helped the financialization of everything. In hindsight, he has supported the agenda of credit for all, deserving or not. And if I find a homeless person right here on the street of Portland, one of these sleeping in a tent with his dirty pillow in these cold evenings, and bless his soul, it's a terrible situation to be in, who knows what he stood by in history, and give him a credit card with $50,000, is anything positive and worthwhile going to come out of that credit that has been provided? Not everybody is due credit. They're due other things. They're due education, support, help, self-dignity, pride, rebuilding up before they get access to credit. Credit is leverage, and you've got to earn the right to leverage in your trading, in your investing, in everything you do, because leverage will burn you, the unwise, without your money management plans in place. It will burn you. It's there to burn you. You've got to grow first. You've got to do slow dough before you try to do fast dough. And believe you me, there's a learning curve to come with that. Yeah, I think that's my roundabout loop through everything. We had a little look at the Wall Street Journal. What else was in there? HSBC's cutting staff. So a quick finish of all the headlines on that. You'll see at top left. So the biggest bank in the UK, focusing on Asia, pulling back. Lots of headaches for the banking industry. No surprises there. It's not just Deutsche is sick, by the way. So all these banks could become ward of state. Soon the state will own your controlling stakes in your mobile phone companies. You've already got in Euroland, where not only are they buying and printing their own money and buying government debt, they've been buying the car makers, bonds, Porsche, VW. So they are already working towards the state being one of the predominant stakeholders and equity holders in via the bond market, because if you become one of the biggest creditors, you will become entitled to put people on the board, and they will be dictating policy for car makers. Where is this capitalism? This is the global communism. China is serving a useful role for Pompeo to put forward communistic tendencies in the bid and the guise to protect you from a communist enemy, following the steps I outlined. This is the great irony of how they take you to a global, technological, oligopoly based communism, where small and medium enterprise is largely hollowed out. The big guys do everything for you. They collect all your data for you. They keep you running on a consumer cycle. This is why consume less, save more, and they get you on the wrong side of a compound interest. And we're all just rodents on a wheel for a big system that is milking you like hell. It's time to opt out. Be smart. Go check the precious metals. Let's bring this show down. I'm calling it quits on this edge from Portland. God bless you all. Go check the video. By the way, SCM, link below. Go check it out if you want to trade. If you want to learn more about trading, check us out. Go free mini series below. Trading is not for everybody. You've got to be prepared to grow and shift. But we believe we're the best community with the best method for supporting beginner traders to do that. Find out the details below and grab the broker link as well if you want a Eurozone secure, a first world Eurozone secure in Sweden that has opted out of the EU limits on leverage, which on certain markets will give you the original leverage that we previously used to get before the Care Bears came to town and started restricting things in the EU. Okay, bye for now, guys. Thanks for watching. Share and like, and I'll catch you on the other side. Go buy Liar's Poker. Go read about Michael Milken. Laugh out loud at the scammy game that has been working its way up to this point. It's full cycle. They're heading on the Wall Street again, and they're coming for them. The financialization of everything is marching forward. The names may change, but the game stays the same. Bye for now.